Welcome to Presidential Fight Club, the show that answers the question, if all 44 presidents fought each other one-on-one, who would win? Hosted by two history professors who have too much time on their hands, Scott Rank and James Early. Welcome to the final fight of round one of the Midwestern Regional. Our fight is between the 44th President Barack Obama and William Howard Taft. James, tell us about what Obama brings to the fight.
Well, Barack Obama was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. He was the only president to be born in Hawaii. So who knows, maybe he did a little surfing when he was little. I don't know. No. And he obviously is our first African-American president. And he, growing up in the 70s and 80s, I'm sure he had to deal with quite a bit of racism and that kind of thing. He has always been into athletics. He plays basketball, he hikes, he does other things. He's very thin, slim and trim. On the downside, he's a smoker, so he's not going to have a tremendous amount of lung capacity or long-term fighting ability. One interesting thing about President Obama is, and this is something I just learned recently, is that he actually studied Taekwondo from 2001 to 2005, reaching the rank of green belt, which is kind of a medium belt. It's maybe halfway between a white belt, which is a total beginner, and a black belt. Actually, it's closer to white belt, but still, that's pretty impressive. So he's going to know some combat techniques. He's going to maybe have a few kicks in there and going to surprise President Taft. And I'll say this: he was 40 when he started, and I guess about 44 when he stopped doing martial arts. And I'm here to tell you, if you start martial arts in your 40s, it's extremely painful. I can speak from experience. 40-year-old bodies and martial arts don't mix real well. I started when I was 41. So anyway, so that's what he brings to the table. He's a fighter. He's got the martial arts. He's got the athletics. So I think he could at least make it interesting.
All right, our man, William Howard Taft. Now, I have to get this out of the way because when I say that name, people only think of one thing, and that is, yes,
the bathtub.
Yeah, the bathtub. William Howard Taft was a fat man. Depending on what time period you're looking at, if Obama was about 180 pounds when he was president, Taft was literally, in terms of weight, twice the man that Obama was. He clocked in at about 340 on the upper end of it. That's how he got stuck in the bathtub, and it took 4 people to lift him out of it. And there's other elements of his obesity when he's president. He had terrible gas. He would flatulate in front of foreign dignitaries. He would nod off in the middle of conversations after eating. And just to get the last of the fat stuff out of the way, I'm just going to dive into it head first. And a book I referenced a few times was Daniel O'Brien's How to Fight Presidents, and there's a list of Taft fat jokes. So let's just get this out of the way. So I'll just say 3 of them. Taft loves food so much that when he took his inaugural oath, he swore on not a Bible, but an IHOP menu. Yeah. Taft was so big they used to trick people into thinking his face was on Mount Rushmore just by standing next to it. He was so big, he used the Bible Belt to keep his pants up. So anyway, he's fat. We get that. Now, what else would he bring to a fight besides being very large? Well, he doesn't have military experience. He was Secretary of War. Neither does Obama, so they're equal in that regard. But he was the intramural heavyweight wrestling champion of Yale when he was in university. So if you can get your opponent on the ground, which thanks to the power of gravity, he almost definitely could get Obama on the ground by knocking him down, then he knows what to do right there. He is, in some ways, a man of restraint. In his political outlook, he served after Teddy Roosevelt, and Roosevelt was a progressive, at least in the early 20th century sense, which is different from the meaning today. But he was more of a strict constitutionalist who didn't only wanted to go as far as what he believed were the powers of the Constitution granted to the president. He noted, however, at one point that I am a man of peace and I don't want to fight. He doesn't want to take what isn't his. But when I do fight, I want to hit hard. Even a rat in a corner will fight. So you have a man who's a wrestler who has the forces of gravity on his side. And when push comes to shove, he will shove. So that's what I think Taft will bring to the fight, and this is why I think he's going to come out on top. So James, who's the winner in this battle?
Well, the winner by pretty large margin is William Howard Taft. His great size just overcame Obama's advantages and his skills that he brought to the table, to the fight.
Well, I would say that, yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear who would have won. One thing I would give to Obama is the aspect of competitiveness. I think I read this profile, it might have been the New York Times a few years ago, that he had a reputation amongst his staffers for how competitive he was, whether it was politics, but even just games that they'd have for staffer parties. So at one point there was a bowling tournament and he ended up losing, but he wanted to win the next time this party would happen. So he practiced in the bowling alley in the basement of the White House until he could raise his score enough that he could be a major force. But anyway, that's neither here or there. He is knocked out of the tournament, and William Howard Taft advances. So that is it for round one. We're going to fire up round two, and we're bringing in Abraham Lincoln, and he is going to face off against our man, Grover Cleveland. Thanks for listening to Presidential Fight Club. If you'd like to download your own printable bracket sheets for each regional tournament so you can guess how the tournament will go, check out presidentialfightclub.com. We'd appreciate it if you could rate and review us on Apple Podcasts as well. Thanks for listening, and may you fight with the stamina of Teddy Roosevelt, the courage of George Washington, and the reach of Abraham Lincoln.